Hello everybody. It has been a long time since I've had a chance to make a video, over a month. So I am thrilled to have the time today to do this. With COVID shutting down the schools again here in Ontario, my son was out of school again for a couple of weeks after Christmas holidays, and it's been busy. But today I have the time, so I'm super excited to just do a little video. I know this isn't going to be the most exciting topic, but I thought that we'd have a look at some tin tarot decks that I only have 8. That's plenty. I love tin tarot decks. They're cute. I love the tins themselves. They're so fun. You can throw them in your bag. And you know they're not going to get damaged. At least the cards aren't. Sometimes the paint wears off on the tins, but all right, let's go ahead and jump in. Of course, my dog is having a nice long drink of water now as soon as I start talking. So the first few decks we're going to look at are the ones that are made by or produced by US Games. That is the bulk of my collection. I have a couple of others I'll show at the end that aren't, but we'll start with the Morgan-Greer. So this is, oh, hello. This is the tin, obviously. So it comes with your little white book with a little brief rundown of the cards. And I have the full-size version of some of these cards, so I will compare them. Now the Morgan-Greer, I've edged this and the full-size actually in Tombow marker, but there is quite a color difference between the tin size Morgan-Greer and the full-size. Now I have not had the time to put any of these decks in order, so we're just gonna have a general peek at them. I'm not gonna go into any great detail, but this is one of my favorite decks. I love the 1970s color schemes and the art style. So here is the, oops, bear with me here. Here's the full-size Morgan-Greer. Now this is what I would consider a standard size tarot deck. It just comes in a tuck box with, again, like a little white guidebook. So the backs are the same on both of these. And you can see the size difference. Now, there is a slight color difference. This one, the full size, is a little bit darker. Of course, there's like water drops on the back of the cards because my camera mount has been in my car and it had some ice on it. I guess I missed some. It's so cold here. Okay, so that's basically the size difference. And even there is some minor size variation between the tin tarot sets. So since these aren't in order, I'm not going to be able to really show you a comparison in the art. I will do that in a separate video when I have a chance, and I have been meaning to do that. See if I can find anything that's comparable, but I can't. Anyway, I just feel like the yellows in the pocket size are a little bit brighter, at least in some of the cards. So that's the Morgan-Greer. Next, I have the Aquarian Tarot. Again, small booklet. This one is more like a pamphlet. It folds out, which is kind of annoying, but the paper is it's sturdier. It's not like, it's a little bit glossier paper, a little bit heavier, so it's more durable. But I do prefer it when they're just like a stapled binding where you don't have to unfold it and try to refold it, because that's one of my challenges in life. Like when I was a kid, trying to put fold maps back wasn't a good plan for me. So here's the Aquarian. These are the backs. I love the backs on this deck. I also have a full size of this deck, and we'll compare the color scheme. The blue on the backs of the full size is much, much brighter. So just that beautiful, beautiful artwork by David Palladini. The faces are very like impassive in this deck. They don't really have much of an expression, which I like. It really leaves them neutral, I find. Love this death card. Yeah, it's a gorgeous deck. Some people find it a little cold, and I can understand that. But it is, if I'm in the right mood for it, it is fantastic. So compared to the Morgan-Greer tin, I'm just going to leave them out of their tins actually, so we can compare the sizes. The cardstock on these two is the same. Of course, we've got the big old US Games copyright on the Morgan-Greer on the back. So the Aquarian is slightly wider. The cards are a little bit wider. And then on the Morgan-Greer, the copyright is not on the front, but it is present here on the Aquarian. And quickly, the Aquarian full size, I'll just pull it out of its bag here. It also comes in a tuck box, but whoops, there go the tins. I'll just give you a quick look at the box. This is the full-size tuck box for the Aquarian, and a little guidebook. So this is the full-size Aquarian. So you can definitely see the difference in the blues. Much more muted, faded on the pocket tin size. The cardstock's also different. This is more of that like typical US Games. It's like the Centennial. It's like buttery, waxy slightly feeling. And this one, the full size, is more of that almost plasticky feeling. If anybody's had the Albano weight, it's more like that. It's just a little slicker, a little glossier. I personally love this type of cardstock. As for the art, I don't notice a huge difference in the colors between these two. It's not obvious to me, not obvious the way it is with the Morgan-Greer. And again, I will do a side-by-side at some point, flipping through the two different sizes of the Morgan-Greer so that you guys can get an idea of the differences between the two versions. I hope this isn't too confusing. It's been so long since I've done a video that I feel kind of like nervous. Isn't that funny? Anyway, I'm just gonna have a sip of my Diet Coke here. All right, so that's the Aquarian. Let's put these up here. Next, I've got the Radiant Rider-Waite. This is the tin. Now these tins don't stack. Like if you put them on top of each other in a cupboard or whatever, they'll just slide off. They don't lock together or like nest in any way, if that makes sense. So I actually just keep them in this like container that I got from the dollar store. I just stack them like this, and I can fit, I think 6. Yeah, 6 fit in this little dollar store guy. Okay, so the Radiant Rider. Again, a little notebook. Cards are, the cardstock's not bad. It's not as waxy feeling, a little more cardboardy than the other tin size decks that I have. Size-wise, I think these ones are a little smaller, actually. Yeah, smaller than the Morgan-Greer, so it's definitely going to be smaller than the Aquarian, if you can see the difference there. It's kind of hard because they have borders, but the Aquarian is wider and actually the same height. So the Radiant Rider-Waite is it's a very bright, it's kind of smooth, like the artwork, the lines are very smooth. It's a very nice deck. I honestly don't use it very often. If I'm in the mood for like a more traditional Rider-Waite Smith, I usually use the Universal Weight or the Centennial. So I do have a full-size Radiant here. There is, it's just a tuck box with your usual white book. There is, no, actually the backs are the same on these two. So just a mini version. I haven't noticed any differences in the art coloring. So there you go. That's the size difference. And next I'm just gonna try to put some of this stuff away as I go, otherwise my table is going to be sheer chaos. Okay, the Universal. Now all the US Games tins are exactly the same size. So this is the front of the tin. Here's the full size. That's the front of the full size tuck box. Now these two, these are the ones, excuse me, that have different backs between the tin and the full size. So obviously I've edged this deck. So first this cardstock is the more waxy type, which I really like. So size-wise, these are quite a bit shorter than the Morgan-Greer. They're quite small. Quite a bit smaller than the Aquarian. And again, this is the smallest of the 4 decks so far anyway. The smallest is the Universal Rider-Waite. This deck is gorgeous. It's done with by Mary Hanson Roberts. It's all done in pencil crayon or color pencil. I didn't realize this, but I'm starting to think, is pencil crayon more of a Canadian term? And maybe Americans say color pencil? I'm not sure. But it's very soft and very beautiful. So that's the smaller size. And then the full size has a totally different back, which is interesting. I prefer the back on the full size. It's like it's just stars, but they're kind of like a gold ink. It's not, gilded or anything. It's not foiling, I mean, but it's very pretty. I do prefer it over the tin size back. But there you see, quite a size difference. And as far as the art, I don't see a huge glaring obvious difference in the colors. Again, the only one that really does seem to me, because I do not have a trained eye for this stuff at all, is the Morgan-Greer. The 2 versions of that are quite different. Okay, so that's 4. Now, the remaining ones I do not have full-size versions for. This is becoming a bit of a mess, but that's okay. So next, we can look at, how about Barbara Walker? This is a very interesting deck. It's very it's full of occult symbolism. She had quite an interesting life. Moon Baby Tarot did a great video talking about her life. I did not realize this, but she is the Barbara Walker of knitting fame. As a knitter, I know her books. I had no idea she made a tarot deck. So when I found that out, I knew I had to get it. I've had it maybe a couple months, and I honestly haven't used it very much. It's more of it's got keywords on it. It's more of a Thoth I think it's very interesting that she was, like, she invented basically, or I don't know if she invented it, but she popularized top-down knitting for sweaters for anybody who's out there that's interested in knitting, like top-down for toddlers and those books. And I believe she was also a journalist, like in a time when women just didn't do that. So she is a pretty amazing woman. I'll put a link to Moonbaby's video talking about her if anybody's interested. And that's Brent, the creator of the Moonbaby Tarot. So you get a little white book here for Barbara Walker. It's not a bad little white book, actually. It gives a pretty good description of the artwork. If anybody wants to pause that, I hope it's focusing. So these are the backs, very to the point. It's that more waxy, buttery US Games cardstock. And then all the courts have like a god or goddess or like a mythological figure with a title. So you have some keywords. Very, very cool. I like this Two of Wands. It's a male presenting and female presenting, so you really get that sort of masculine feminine energy duality going on. Alliance, yeah, it's really interesting. Like, you could really do a deep dive on this deck. Look at this guy, super cool. So as far as size goes, this I believe is a little bigger than the others. Yep, bigger than Morgan-Greer, bigger than Aquarian, so it's obviously going to be the biggest of all of my tin decks, at least the US Games ones. So look at the size difference between the Radiant or the Universal Weight and the Barbara Walker. Like, that's a substantial difference. So yeah, these tin tarot decks, there is some variety in size for sure between them. Now I like this size. I have not pursued finding full size because obviously this one's, well, not obviously, I don't believe it's in print. I'm sure I could find one on eBay or something, but from what I've heard, the full size version is barely any bigger than this. It was printed on smaller cards to begin with. And these cards are a good size for me anyway. I can riffle them and bridge them without any problem. I'll try to do it right now. Yeah, oops, so maybe I lied. Normally I'm okay with it. It's just sitting at this table, it's kind of high up. Yeah, I'm not gonna try again. I usually fail miserably when I'm trying to shuffle on camera. Performance anxiety, I guess. All right, so this is the last of the US Games that I have, the Gummy Bear Tarot. This is an adorable deck. My teenage daughter loves it. It is her favorite. So yeah, we've used it a lot. Obviously, there's some disgusting food or some chocolate on there. The guidebook is adorable. Like, just reading the descriptions of the cards is so fun when you're actually doing a reading. Like, the magician bear proudly waves his magic wand. Nestled, like the Empress here, nestled among meadows on a comfortable throne, the Empress bear enjoys herself. She wields her scepter joyfully. You know, it's adorable. If you want a feel-good deck, this is a good one. Even the introduction is freaking adorable. And it's by Dietmar Bittrick, who I believe is German. So maybe, I don't know, it's whimsical. Is that the word I'm looking for? You know, if you like cute decks, you really can't go wrong with this one. So that's the backs. Obviously Gummy Bears. And just show a few cards. Very simple, but super adorable. If you've watched any of my other videos, you'll have seen that this came up. I think it was in my top 10 reader decks. Look at us. Their faces are so simple yet so so expressive, like that stern justice. This page, the feather in his cap. Yeah, I could, this video could be a lot longer, but I don't want it to be like 2 hours long of me gushing over all the cards. Okay, cardstock, it's the waxy US Games. So all of them are the waxy US Games, except for this one I find is just a little more cardboardy. Oh, actually, this one, sorry, the Radiant's a little more cardboardy. The rest are all like the standard US Games. So size-wise, the Gummy Bear is wider and taller than the Morgan-Greer. It is also a hair wider and taller than the Aquarian. Quite a bit larger width and height than the Radiant. The Universal. There you go. And finally, the Barbara Walker. So it's about the same height as Barbara Walker, but Barbara Walker wins in the size category for these US Games decks. So I guess in terms of size overall, the biggest cards are Barbara Walker, then the Gummy Bears, then the Aquarian, the Morgan-Greer, the Radiant, and then the smallest being the Rider-Waite. Just for anybody who's interested, I know this is like super nitpicky and most people are gonna be bored out of their minds, but this is the kind of thing that I actually find interesting. And that's why YouTube is such a beautiful place to hang out, because you can find other people that are into like this minutia of information. All right, so let's see how I can deal with all this stuff. I'm just gonna try to slide it out of the way. I have 2 decks left. Just to briefly show, because I've done a walkthrough of one of them already that you can find on my channel. So it's the Wild Unknown. This tin is quite a bit thicker than the US Games one. It's quite, yeah, it's quite wide. Is that the word? No, deep. It's quite deep. But it's got a huge thick guidebook, so that explains that. As far as the front, it's a bit smaller. It's thinner and shorter, if you can see that. So cardstock it's okay. It's not the best. I mean, it glides well. It feels very cardboardy. It feels like the new cardstock that they're using. I'm trying to remember who publishes this. Is it Houghton Mifflin? No, Harper One. It's the same cardstock I think that they're using for their new editions or new printings of the Wild Unknown, Spirit, and the Tarot, which I find are quite cheap compared to the older cardstock. The one that I have, I do have the full-size Wild Unknown, but I'm not, I didn't bother getting it out. It's buried somewhere in my closet. It's more of like a matte, thicker cardstock. This is quite cardboardy. And the cards are quite small. I believe, let's compare it to the smallest of the US Games, which would be Rider-Waite. Yes, they are smaller even than that. So they are this is by far the smallest of the tin decks. Same height though, exactly the same height. Let me give you a bit more contrast. Okay, so that is the Wild Unknown. Here's the guidebook. It's very thick. It's a full reproduction of the full-size guidebook. So that's cool. I mean, you know, if you don't want to invest in the huge collector's box that the full-size version of this deck comes in, this is a great alternative as long as you can read the tiny font. And it's you know, it's a really good price. All of these US Games tin decks, I believe I've got off Amazon for about $23.95 Canadian. And this one on Amazon, I think, was 18 Canadian. So, like, that's a really good deal for what you're getting. And finally, this is not a pocket-sized deck, but it is another tarot in a tin. This is an indie deck that I purchased online in, I think, last winter. The Serpent and the Peacock Tarot by Libra Moon. So it comes with, like, it's printed right on. I think these tins are made by Make Playing Cards. I'm not sure, but it came with the tin, which is cool. I don't have any other indie decks or full-size decks that came in a tin. I'm gonna do a full flip through of this deck at some point. It's all like medieval, I think, medieval art that's been sort of collaged together. These are the backs, very cool. It's gilded, shiny, but it's actually quite durable. It's got more of a texture to it. It's not like that super shiny gilding. Like, you can sort of see it here. It's a very interesting deck. The only issue I have with it is on the in the suits. Like, things look really, to me, very like photoshopped on, if that makes sense. It's more obvious in some cards than others. I mean, it's a really cool deck. He did an amazing job of picking the artwork for each card. But here you get an idea. Like, can you see sort of, it's like jagged pixelated edges? Pentacles aren't bad. It's really the swords and the cups that I noticed the most. Here's a good example. I'm gonna see if I can get this to focus. Maybe if I tap the camera. Oops, sorry guys. I don't know if that's focusing. But around the edges, you can see really pixelated, like Photoshop stamped on the card effect. Which, I don't know, it's probably not a big deal to some people, but it just kind of takes me out of the card. It just doesn't feel like it flows properly with the card. Here's another, it just feels kind of like a sticker's been stuck on there. I honestly have no idea if my camera is capturing this. But anyway, it's a super cool deck. I mean, if that doesn't bug you, then I would definitely recommend it. It comes with a really, like, a full-size guidebook too that you can buy. I don't think it was included with the price of the deck. It was extra, but it's a full guidebook, very, very thorough. Does have some spelling issues, which always jump out at me because, I don't know, I should have been like an editor or something. I can spot like typos and contextual spelling errors a mile away. It's just the way my brain works. So that is the entire collection. So that's 8 decks in total. Oh, and this is just a standard size card. This isn't a small deck. I just included it in this video because it is in a tin. So technically it is part of my tin tarot collection. So I hope that somebody found this interesting. I found it fun to make, even though it probably seemed a little all over the place because I showed so many decks in half an hour. But there you go. That's my crazy brain trying to make sense of its collection. So anyway, I hope you guys have an awesome day, and I really hope it's not going to be another month before I get to sit down and make another video. I have a feeling I'll be able to do a couple of weeks from now on, now that school's back in. So again, take care guys, and have a great day. Bye.